Hello book friends, what's up? How's it going? I hope everyone's doing well. I hope you have had an endless supply of books to read over this summer. I have read some great books. I know my videos have been coming about once a week. Life has been keeping me kind of busy this summer, and as usual, no rest for the weary. And let me tell you, after joining TikTok, my TBR has gotten longer than ever. But I actually kind of love that because I'm getting introduced to a lot of new authors. I love reading new authors. I don't always get a chance to because I am on quite a few ARC teams, but it's been just great hearing about new authors and following them and seeing what their books are all about. Because after all, reading is my favorite thing to do besides spending time with my family, obviously. It's my stress reliever. I know you all understand that because you guys are all book lovers as well. If you are new here, welcome, hello. Thanks for stopping by my channel. My name is Kat and I read primarily romance novels and like to share them with you here on my channel. Today's video is on an author who I've read almost all of her books. I think there's one I haven't read. I do enjoy her so very much and I feel like her writing just gets better and better and better and quite frankly, a little steamier each time too. She actually wrote the first single parent romance that I can remember reading, if not the first single dad romance. And oh my gosh, like that just knocked me off my feet. Jimmy, man, wow. Like there's just something about a man caring for his kids. I don't know what it is. Well, of course I do know what it is, but you know what I'm saying. So the book we're going to talk about today and author is Ashley Munoz, and the book is The Wild Card. I believe this is going to be a series because at the end of this book, there were some things, some clues as I read along, but at the end of this book, there was a little bit into what I think will be the next book. Excited for that. Interested. Let me tell you, that character, wasn't really sure how I felt about her all through the book, and then especially at the end of the book, so I'm intrigued. The book is about Mallory and Decker. They go to the same college and meet under kind of interesting circumstances. So they are seniors in college getting ready to graduate. Mallory is a journalism student and has her eye on an amazing opportunity, a highly sought after internship, and she really wants that for after when she graduates. Decker is a baseball player. He's a pitcher for the college team. There's a whole part to this story that involves that and some other stuff. And I feel like if I go too far into that, I'm gonna give too much of the story away. So I'm gonna dance around that a little bit. I don't like to give spoilers here in my channel, but I do like to share about the book. So I'm gonna keep that a little separate for as much as I can because there's a lot to it and I can't give you a little bit without giving you more of it for it to make sense. Let me tell you, there is plenty other about Mallory and Decker that I have to talk about. Mallory has an interesting relationship with her family. So her mom has passed and it was just her and her dad for a while. And then all of a sudden her dad remarried. That woman had a daughter the same age. So that's interesting, right? They're both only children and now sisters. So I really liked how Ashley wrote all that. I think that a lot of how Mallory reacts to Taylor is her being very self-aware and trying to not ruffle feathers. They're very different women. She misses her mom. She misses the family that she had with just her dad and her mom. She doesn't really get along with her stepmom. Her stepmom is not really interested in Mallory. So it was tenuous. And I think I've used that word like 3 times in describing that. And I will give you a spoiler that Taylor is the subject of the next book. I could not put my finger on Taylor. Still can't. Mallory has great friends, Hillary and Juan. I loved them. I always love when books have great, strong supporting characters that are friends like Hillary and Juan. And both Mallory had them and Decker had them. Decker, like I said, is the pitcher for the baseball team. He's actually on the injured list during the book, but he still helps out. He's very much part of the team. He has had some issues, so he is not playing, but he still is involved in the extracurricular activities and the practices and the games that the team has. Of course, as athletes at the college, they're kind of put up on this pedestal, and you know, all of that is kind of not something I really get into. As far as, I thought Ashley wrote all that really well about how the athletes kind of walk around like their shit doesn't stink, and that's kind of how it was. Again, there's a part of Decker and that I feel like I'll be spoiling, so I'm not going to go into too much about his injury or the team. That being said, he had great friends too. Marcus, his roommate, I adored the parts that we saw about him. And then something that really connected Mallory and Decker was Decker just lost his dad, like within a year of when the book takes place. Those were some of the hardest parts to the book for me, reading that. And I'm like even getting teary thinking about it. There was something about Mallory talking about missing her mom and the time after her mom died and the closeness she felt with her dad and how that changed when he got remarried. And then how Decker talks about his mom and how lost she is without his dad and his younger brother, Kyle. And Decker is really trying to hold the family together, being away at school, coming back whenever he can to mow the lawn, to make sure the bills are paid, take care of his mom. Those were the parts. Oh, they got me. And to hear him talk about his mom, and I'll share some of that in a little bit. Oh, I actually messaged Ashley and I was like, tears, like, whew, she nailed it. And I think that's because something that her and I both have, that we have connected a little bit on, is that she has lost her dad and I have lost my mom. And so her and I connected on that, and then I connected with her characters in this book about that as well. If you are new to my channel, I like to share passages and sentences that really affected me in the book. I read on a Kindle, and I highlight, and sometimes I go overboard and I highlight like the whole freaking book, which is a little hard when I'm trying to condense the video. But what I do is I pick passages that I like to share with you. This is Mallory talking about Taylor. We walked with him as far as the elevators, and for a second I didn't mind sharing my dad with Taylor. For a second I felt like I could share anything with her if it felt like we were really sisters. Later I would wish I had known that feeling would come back to slap me in the face. And this is Juan talking to Mallory, and I just love this. Don't you need your best friend once in a while to shine a light on you and kind of pick you up and make you realize that you really are a good person, you really are wonderful, you really are a catch, you really are smart? And that's what Juan does here, and I loved it. You do. You're gorgeous, brilliant, have the entire world at your feet. When you look at people, it's like you know their innermost secrets, and you aren't sure if you'll expose them or not. You may have been awkward in your body at one time, but I can assure you, he lowered his eyes, taking in my stature entirely. That isn't the case anymore. Someone is going to come along and be the one that makes you finally believe it. Just make sure you remember you're worth it. No one is doing you any favors, baby girl. You're the prize, the pot the players ask favors to win. My eyes began to water as I processed his words. They were an ointment to some jagged scars I had on my self-confidence, especially after the other night. I love you. I walked into his arms, feeling his wrap around me in a tight hug. I love you too. Not enough to ever go, lower on you, but I love you like you're my little sister. He kissed the top of my head before pushing me away, and I laughed, swiping at my face. I'll see you, he winked and walked out the front door. I loved Juan. Juan showed up when Mallory needed him. How Decker steps up to the plate after his dad dies really does showed me a lot about him. I really was so affected by these passages and how he's trying to carry on his life and what he sees when he sees his mom so sad and how it makes him feel and how no one's checking in on his brother and he can't be everywhere all the time and he can't make the money, play the baseball, go to school, watch his brother be 3 hours away. The wheels are falling off the bus and he's trying so hard to keep them there. So Decker goes home all the time, and this is from Decker's perspective. I heaved a steady breath, trying not to inhale the scent of my childhood, of my dad. Every single time I walked through the door, I still smelled the baseball glove he'd shoved in my tiny hand for the first time. That white and red striped leather he tossed in the air, smiling brightly as he ushered me outside to play catch. It still shredded me when I walked in this house, still ripped me open as raw as it had that first time after the funeral. He goes on to say, my mother hummed in response, flipping the page in her photo album, retreating to the space in her mind that was surviving her grief by reliving memories often as she could. She used to come home from a shift at the hospital and take a long bath. Dad would finish dinner and tell us baseball stories while she finished up. She'd come out in her fluffy robe, her hair in a tight braid, and then she'd spend the whole evening with us laughing and playing. Now she came home and just sat. No dinner, no bath. Dark house, no life. Oh, that one got me. And then this last one. The walls were too close, the smells too intense. Suddenly I was seeing my dad on the couch with my mom, his arm wrapped around her, laughing at the television, his hands playing with her hair in that way he'd done my entire life. I knew deep down that my mother wasn't just heartbroken, she was hurt in a way I didn't understand. She couldn't function, and I needed to let her go through it, but I missed her. Kyle missed her. I needed her to come out of this pit of grief and be my mom again. I needed her to sell this house and let us start over together. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Almost too much for me. There was this really sweet moment where Decker brings Mallory home because he wants to spend time with her. Not because it's like the big meet the family thing. He just wants to spend time with her, and it's a 3-hour drive back home. So he figures if he can get her in the car and to go home with him, he has her attention for that time, which I loved. But oh my gosh, now let's remember that she has lost her mom, and she's walking into Decker's house not knowing that his dad has passed, but she meets his mom, and I was a blubbering mess. From Mallory's perspective. Hello, the woman smiled at me, and her eyes bounced over to her son, who was standing next to me and who was still holding my hand. I let him go and stepped forward. Hi, I'm Mallory. I held out my hand for her to shake. She hadn't stopped looking at her son, and whatever she saw there had her stepping closer, bypassing my hand and pulling me into a tight hug. I froze for a fraction of a second, my mind a battle zone of anxiety and panic. But then her warmth settled into me and I melted. Oof! Tears burned the back of my eyes as I inhaled her sweet smell, matching it to what I'd encountered when I first stepped into the house. I'm Penny. Welcome to our home. I hadn't been hugged by a mother figure. I hadn't been hugged by a mother-like figure in, come here, Butternut, come give me a hug. I pushed the memory of the last time my mother hugged me down as far as I could and cleared my throat, just like Decker had done. Thank you. I pulled away. I had to. She was warm and loving, nothing at all like my cold stepmother. Oof, that one got me. Big time. Oh my gosh. This is what Decker says about Mallory after they meet. I hadn't ever been in love, not that I knew of, but the punch to my chest when I saw her wasn't something I'd ever forget. My eyes greedily, is that right? greedily drank in her luscious curves, her round ass, and those effing breasts. Full, real, perfect. She was all woman and entirely perfect. I remember up close. I could see her eyes were forest green with tiny specks of gold from the reflection in the light in the room. She had a cluster of freckles across her nose, spattered along her cheeks, with just one above her left eyebrow. She was beautiful, the kind of beauty that would take years to fully appreciate and even longer to discover. Loved that line. The kind you want to wake up to every day, the kind you want to see in your kids and their kids. Stop it. Oh my God. The forever kind. I couldn't seem to forget the way her hands fit against my chest, the way their warmth seemed to spread into the icy cavern that existed under my skin. It was enough to make my breath hitch. Oh my God, swoony. I loved Decker. I loved him. I had such a crush on him. I adored Decker. And Mallory was very easy to like, very easy to like. Let me tell you, their chemistry, off the charts. Ashley turned up the spice with her last book. She cranked the spice in this book. Woo, woo. And she wrote their chemistry and their sexy time off the charts. Ashley had these zingers in the book, not only parts that made me emotional or laugh or feel swoony about, but also these zingers that I really, I loved her choice of words and how she wrote them. The first one is Mallory. Meanwhile, my heart hammered away in my chest, reminding me how fragile it was and how stupid I'd been to hand it over to someone who had such a rough grip. I loved that. And another one from Mallory. I pushed back my emotions, clogging my chest. I needed clarity. He confessed so much, but I couldn't get past the idea that this was about Elias diverting his attention from Decker's favorite toy, and I was just collateral damage in their effed up dynamic. Right now, so are you, I whispered. I was 2 seconds from crying. If I cried, I would sob and effing sob. I wouldn't be able to stop. He was dangerous for my heart. He'd won me. And now he kept tossing me back in the pile like he was willing to bet it again. Ooh, tossing her heart back in the pile, willing to bet he'd be able to win it again. Oh my gosh, that just got me. That one just hit my heart. And then the last one. I wanted to cling to him, to hold him, have something serene and soft between us, not just wild abandon. But that felt like surrender and forgiveness, which I wasn't sure I was ready to extend. Ooh, something soft between them. Yes, oh, because let me tell you, Mallory goes through it in this book. And by the way, Decker does too. There is enough drama in this book that I was like stressed out. I was like, oh no. And I love that I got all the feels with this story. Thank God there's a happily ever after. Whew. I needed it. I needed them to get it. And thank goodness we got it. Let me know if you have read Wildcard or Ashley's other books. You know I always love to hear. I would love for you to consider subscribing while you're here and giving the video a thumbs up. When you do that, it really does help my channel. And this video gets shown to more people here on YouTube. Thanks for hanging out with me today, guys. I'll see you soon. Bye.